Thank you for joining today's webinar. We will go in about 60 seconds. We're letting people in as we speak. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Hulkran from Advanced Local, and welcome to the future of obituaries and digital memorialization. On behalf of Advanced Local and the newspapers we represent, from the Birmingham News in Alabama to the Grand Rapids Press in Michigan to the Republican in Springfield, Massachusetts, and many points in between, we want to thank you for your partnership and for your business. Now more than ever, helping families remember those who have passed is critical. And for those of you on the front lines who continue to deal with the outcome of the pandemic and for the impact on your families and businesses, we want to recognize and thank you for all that you're doing in our local communities during these challenging times. The goal for today is to share with you some changes coming to the obituary pages we host on our many websites and introduce you to some of the new tools and ways, along with our partner legacy.com, we view the future of obituary and its distribution channels as they evolve across digital media. The audience and interest in reading about and remembering family members only continues to grow as we see year-over-year increases in the number of people reading online and the number of pages that are being viewed. And we know that the social channels are where we distribute obituaries are becoming more important to reach others who want to be a part of remembering and memorializing those who are important in their lives. We also want to find ways for you to continue to grow your business through these channels so that you can continue to be a significant partner for us and for the families expanding the ritual of memorialization. Throughout today's webinar, we're going to be answering your questions in each segment. So unlike all at the end, this will be after each speaker. So what we want you to do is jump into the Q&A area and put your questions in there. I'll be monitoring both the chat and the Q&A, but if you could get it in the Q&A, then we can keep track of them. We'll do that after each segment. So to get us started, though, I wanted to let you know a little bit more about Advance and how we know the local markets that you're in right now. Advance's mission is to build the value of the company over the long term by fostering growth and innovation across a diversified portfolio that you can see here. Things like the Ironman and Reddit and Discovery and some data partners and Condé Nast that we have here. And while our reach is national, our core strength is our ability to connect with the audiences on a local level. Our journalists do the vital work to inform communities day in and day out, which has resulted in over 700 awards for that reporting. And here are just some of the newspapers you interact with every day and some of the names you're most familiar with. And across the country, these brands and services have been in your local markets for generations, many over 175 years, just like many of your families and businesses. And so with that, I wanted to take a moment to introduce our panelists from today and the technology partner that powers our obituary sites for each local website like nj.com and al.com. So today, we'll hear from Anthony Esposito, who leads the product development team for Legacy. Antonio will tell us more about where they're innovating and developing on behalf of our ultimate customer, the families. He'll give us a direct view into Legacy's research and development and share modifications currently underway for the online display of our obituaries and the changes that are coming this year. On top of Antonio's presentation, he's also going to share with us some things they are developing as we begin to look at obituaries on a broader continuum of memorialization and beyond. Ernie Roth, who manages the Legacy's partnership with newspapers and beyond, he'll be walking us through a way for you to better brand your funeral homes. And Kim Vanderveld, she works with us every day to make sure these obituaries are placed properly online and that your guest books are monitored. She's going to be sharing with us how social has become an integral part of how people are finding obituaries and how we're placing every obituary into our social channels to help families find this information, particularly as many families now find themselves living in different areas of the country. And we'll start with Antonio, who will discuss how Legacy as a company is thinking about obituaries more broadly and walk us through some of these changes. Antonio?
Hey, this is Antonio Esposito with Legacy. Can everyone hear me clearly? I'll take that as a yes, unless I hear people in the chat saying otherwise. So thanks for joining. We're really going to be diving into, to kick us off here, our overarching product strategy and how we look at the customer journey, really for this whole concept of end-of-life planning, as well as the critical point that we're here to talk about today, which is really the obituary. And the planning that really goes into that really is just intertwined across these three different segments that we really have here. And we really view this as the full segments that we look at for that customer journey. It's really comprised of end-of-life planning, at-need resources, and really the end long-term memorialization. And one of the big things that we've really noticed is we really only play here when we're talking about the obituary. The obituary itself, really in its current state, is really just focused on after the arrangements have been made and up until the time that the services are actually occurred and completed, to really inform people and let them know what's happened, information on the deceased and the person who's passed away, and also information from the family that is planning the services and where they'll be held, and other critical information like that. So really when we're looking at this opportunity here that we have to partner up and say, how could we be servicing the community and really the people in our communities better? It's really looking at how can we legacy and advance work with you guys to get more ingrained in all of these different areas here that people are going to and engaging in as they're going through their customer journey and life cycle. So really, as we're looking at that, we have all of these stages and content that's occurring as people are preparing and planning and organizing. And a lot of that, other than just coming from the actual network that a person is a part of or people who they know from their community, whether it's a religious person that they're tight with in their community, or it's just someone that the family has worked with previously to manage funeral services. The other content people are really looking at is really online. So they might be going to different planning sites or reading different types of online content sources where they're actually finding information about that end-of-life journey and what are things that they need to be doing, whether that's estate planning or whether that's looking and comparing at costs for funerals. There's really this beginning phase here that we're not really playing in or engaging in. But really what we're going to be talking about a lot today and what we're going to be really focusing on with our product demo is really looking at this at-need portion and in the memorialization portion for the brand new obituary product that we're rolling out, our new obit pages, and looking at how we're making those evolve and how we're making changes to those to eventually get to a point where these aren't really even just obituary pages anymore. They're really used to memorialize that person's memory for a lifetime, and that we're going to be creating new and different experiences, like we'll be demoing like community pages and groups that help people who are looking to stay closer to different aspects of their local community, whether it's high schools or colleges or other organizations, to stay in touch and informed on people who they care about who may have passed away. So really the big thing we'll be looking at today in that product demo will be how are we taking that obit that really has only serviced kind of the arrangement and the services piece of a customer's life journey, and really saying, well, how can we grow that and how can we expand that to drive more value and enrichment and engagement from those users who might be looking for that obituary information in different ways. And really some of the features we're going to hone in on here is there's some new things being added directly to the obit itself, where we're adding in a lot more exposure for the funeral home than we ever had before, and making it easier for people to get in touch and find information that's linked to that funeral home for the specific obituaries that would be hosted on advanced properties. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now for a product demo. So I'm again going to check the chat, just make sure everything's looking good. Looks like everything's looking good. So we're going to start our journey with the star of the show, which is really our new obit here. So for anyone who hasn't taken a look at the new designs, we've already started rolling these out to a lot of our partners, at least the first version of this obituary. And it's just a much cleaner design. It's much more organized, much more respectful. And we've been getting a lot of really great feedback about it. But the important things that we want to point out, other than touch points to our future community pages and other areas of engagement, is really how we're treating the funeral home information here. So eventually, it's not in the current version, but it will be in future versions that we're rolling out. We have this area in the top right corner. So outside of having additional touch points to different types of features we're going to be adding in, really during the time of service, during that window, we're going to be having special places of information for the funeral homes to make it much easier for people to find information about the funeral home, to get content about that, and also to know when is the most recent upcoming service that is happening for this person's obituary. So as we kind of scroll down here, we're going to see again, past the actual dedicated obit content itself, we really have these different content well and content areas here. And really the first one that's really most relevant to the user, at least at this time, in the times leading up to the service, is of course, where are the memorial events, if they are being held, where are they going to be at, and where's that information? So that's why we have this area is really dedicated to that information. And it's really if these events are occurring at a funeral home, we really have priority placement for content about the funeral home itself to make it easy for people to see what's happening when, and also to get in contact with the funeral home itself. Over time, as these events pass or go away, this information and this data will collapse, but we will still retain just as the evergreen memory of the events that occurred here. Where were those services held at, as well as continuing to showcase that information for the funeral home that was responsible for holding those services. There are a couple different features here that I'm not going to dive into all of them, but one of the big ones that we've changed is we used to make people go off and go to another page to engage with the guest book and leave a memory for someone. But we've placed all of that information here all on one consolidated page. So it's really easy for people to get that information and to access it for this person's obituary. The big new feature that we are introducing, and we're going to be rolling out test versions of this over the next couple of months, is really our communities pages. And the reason why these are exciting is because we're taking a look at what are all of the different communities that are mentioned, what are the different universities, what are the different high schools and other institutions. And we're going to be creating these source pages here. And what's going to end up happening is the content that's placed with the funeral home to advanced sites, we're going to be surfacing that information in new places and in different audiences. So not only would that content be for people who are coming here and looking at the advanced site for the most recent obituaries, but once we have these pages created and we're syndicating them out through different sources, people have elected to follow and to find information for different local universities or organizations will also be getting that information and that announcement as well. And this is something that we've really had a lot of demand for, and a lot of our customers have been asking. They've been telling us outside of just from going to the newspaper directly, how else can I keep in touch with different local affiliations and places that I care about and that mattered most. So this is something that we'll be doing through a host of different ways, but the primary one will be really us identifying, are these institutions and are these things located within the obituary text that's being sent, and going through and through natural language processing tools and a little bit of manual curation on our end, actually tagging and attributing people to these new pages and content experiences. The really nice thing about that, especially for the funeral homes themselves, is that not only will that obituary content and for the families that you're serving really be just more accessible to different types of audiences, but we also have additional branding happening here on these pages and these cards for these funeral homes that's providing additional value there throughout the life cycle of this content. And the final area that we're introducing here is this design that we have for the community pages is also the same design that we'll be using as we're going through and we're updating the advanced papers and taking a look at the different content that we're going to be placing here. So we haven't yet started rolling these out to the advanced papers, but things that we do want to call out is this will be replacing our home pages and listing pages where we're listing out the obituary content. And for partners that are taking advantage of different types of features, like our funeral home local spotlight feature, other local spotlight features, we have this really nice design language that we're adding in here that outside of creating different types of carousels or other engagement points that could be confusing people, that if you're taking part of those programs that we have this design treatment that's really calling out that individual and that person's obituary, and that has additional branding opportunities here, like your logos, and as well as the same reference that we have for the actual funeral home name and the actual content cards. So where before we just kind of had a little carousel in a different area of content engagement, we're really giving partners who are engaging in that program just really prominent and priority placement on these new content listing pages. And that concludes at least the product demo part that I wanted to run through. Eric, thanks for giving me the reins. I'll hand them back over to you to aggregate the Q&A portion.
Yeah, I've got a couple to start with, and then we'll see if anything else rolls in. The first one is, how has the new Obit experience performed with consumers? So what has happened when you put it out in the field?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, not surprisingly, that people like is the images are better. On our previous Obit product, we didn't really have big areas for images. I'd say the biggest thing that consumers have actually really liked is that if they're providing a large image, it actually looks really, really nice in the obituary itself. The other thing that people have commented that they like is having the guest book all in one area, as well as something that we've done with the design is we haven't included ads kind of breaking up in between the obituary text, which can happen in other places. So a lot of people just view it as being a very respectful representation of the obituary that they want to post with their papers.
That's awesome. And the design is gorgeous. If no one has said that to you yet today, it looks awesome. So question 2 is, how will these new pages drive more people or clicks to my funeral home website? So how will it drive more traffic?
Yeah, so in other places, we've kind of had our funeral home CTAs kind of dispersed a bit more. At least in the new obituary and even the listing pages, there's dedicated areas of prominence funeral home call to actions. We've never had buttons on the obit that make it really easy for someone to call or get to the funeral home website, as well as something that we actually didn't demo today, but I think we'll kind of be talking about a little bit later, is we also have this content will also be placed within our funeral home directory as well. So there's just a lot of different areas where we're cross-pollinating branding, as well as additional CTAs to just make it really easy for people who want to get in touch with the funeral home and want to go to the funeral home website, that it's really, really easy for them to do that, and that we're not creating friction with that experience.
Awesome. And we don't have a question, but Adam just said great to know on the images. So he's excited about the new imageability. All right, Antonio, I feel like you are off the hook, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, you got it, dude. All right. We're now going to be hearing from Ernie Roth, who will be sharing with us a new way for you to better brand your funeral home and generate new business from the aforementioned powerful online directory. Ernie, it is all yours, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And it was a great segue when the question about the engagement with the funeral home and the funeral home website, because we really believe it's a combination of things with the obituaries, right, going on with users. And one of those things is to make sure they know about the local funeral homes and have the information they need to engage with those homes. And so, like Antonio's right, we're going to have some links on the nice new obituary. We also have refurbished our funeral home directory, which is the largest on the web. We generate significant traffic. I know there are other funeral home directories out there with Yelp and some others, but we've got significant monthly traffic. And earlier this year, we've had this for probably 6 or 7 years. Earlier in 2020, we remodeled this and relaunched it. So it looks like this is sort of the homepage of the directory here, this screen. And I think you can click through now. Eric will go to the next page. It's a series of listings, really, right? And I've got a couple examples from advanced markets to just help illustrate this. A funeral home listing at Legacy includes all the obituaries associated with that funeral home, right? And so if you're placing with one newspaper, typically those will all be here. We have funeral homes that are placing with multiple papers, depending on the market. Those come in here too. You'll see here, and there's address information, phone number, website. We clearly want people to get through and show traffic. And this is another outlet along with individual obits for people to get to your website. You'll notice here in the left rail of the slide, we've got unclaimed listing. And the point there is that one of the new features of the directory is that homes can go in and claim their directory listing, whether you have a single location or multiple locations on Legacy. And what does that mean? I mean, the unclaimed listing still has information, right? We had a database and we use that database to, power these initial pages. But what claiming the listing does is it lets you upgrade those pages. And so here's an example from another advanced market of a funeral home that is a claimed listing, and will show in some of these subsequent screens what that enables someone to do. And Legacy is willing and able to help, right? Get these pages in order, right? You can talk to the partners team or talk to our support team, and we will guide you. But if you go to the next screen here, Eric, we'll point out a couple things. So in addition to the key information at the top of the page, which everyone gets, links and so forth, and the obituaries on the first page, you can see here that Bush has added a number of photos, right? The photo at the top and various photos about their location, right? Inside, outside. This is all available to you, right, in the directory. If you've got those kind of assets, and I know many funeral homes do, we've got plenty of room to accommodate those once you claim the listing. So that is really kind of the power that was not it did not exist in the same form and not as ready-made for funeral homes to take advantage of in our old directory. So that's one of the big changes, right, going forward. And like I said, this is free, right? It's free to claim. All these upgrades are part of the directory, part of the service we're making available. It's very complementary to any of the branding you get on the obituaries that are running across the advanced markets, right? Wherever you're from, wherever your families are placing obits through you. So this is a great companion, right, to the, Antonio's right, the obit is the star, right, in the center ring, but the funeral home directory is a great companion to that for marketing and branding.
All right, so Ernie, I will start with one of the questions that we have, as people might be able to throw their own questions in here. How much do the directory listings and the directory leads cost to the funeral homes?
Yeah, there's no cost for the listing, right? We've got, if a listing isn't claimed today, we've got kind of that standard information we showed in that one screenshot, Eric, for like the Bush example, right? That was claimed. They were able to add the material to upgrade it. That was no There's no extra cost. The lead gen part of this, right? There are forms within that directory where someone can complete that. A user coming in, and that if that happens, that information gets sent to the email address that was entered at the time the listing was claimed. So part of the claiming process is providing that information, and that's kind of one of the main reasons, right? Is the administrator then gets that email. Legacy gets a copy too. I will say that some of them are very legitimate pre-need or at-need leads. In fact, one came yesterday, right, from not an advanced market, but I saw it come in, and someone on my team handled it, on the same team as I am. It is also a bit of a Q&A. Hey, I'm looking for my uncle's obit. So some of that stuff comes in too, no doubt. And we're going to work to better optimize that around leads. But we are getting some leads through the directory forms for sure.
That's awesome. Good to hear. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
We're going to turn, you got it. Have a great day. We're going to turn now to Kim, who's going to walk us through the emergence of social, which has found a place in grieving and remembering. And across advanced obituary sites, we've seen social emerge to be nearly 20% of the referral traffic, meaning 1 in 5 people engaged with our obituaries online started on social. And that trend for the past 2 years has only continued to grow, which is no surprise to our next guest. We'll bring you on, Kim. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining today. So we recently worked with your local advanced newspapers to set up Facebook pages, one for each newspaper, that feed obituaries onto Facebook with the intention of reaching people where they are and where they are engaging. A lot of our families and friends are using Facebook now more than ever, being closer to home. So the goal is really to put your obituaries in front of readers where they are, on social media as they are scrolling through their feeds. Last month, we posted 100,000 obituaries to Facebook on these pages. And each month we've seen increases in social referrals and traffic, as Eric alluded to. Since launching the advanced pages over the last year, there has been a 75% increase in social referrals to the advanced sites and your obituaries that are on these sites. And this not only benefits readers, but funeral home partners like yourselves in the work that you're doing. Each one of these pages includes all of the newspaper's obituaries, and all of the posts include key information pulled in from the obituary itself. So take this example for Elizabeth McCreary. We pull in the name of the deceased as well as your funeral home name and the location. An obituary photo is included if there is one that was sent in with the obituary. And all the links that you see here in the post direct traffic back to the full obituary on the newspaper site, where your brand is displayed front and center. So the idea here is these obits are much more shareable if they are already on Facebook. People are more likely to share with their community, their families, their friends, and the deceased family is able to reach people that they might not have otherwise to share the news of the death, of the loss. I just actually heard last week from another newspaper partner how appreciative one of their readers was for learning of a former neighbor's death via this page. It was a neighbor they had lived, next to in the 1970s and 80s, whose death they said they likely would never have known about if it hadn't been from this page. So there are many stories like that that really highlight the value of the program, the reach and the benefit of this program, not only for users, but again, for our funeral partners who get more exposure through these pages. Eric, if you can jump, thank you, to the next one. Here's a really great example of an obituary. You can see that there were 26 shares off of this post. Typically, with each obituary on Facebook, being shared on Facebook, it reaches 10 additional families as a baseline. So the 26 shares on top of that really enhance the impact of this obituary, allowing it to reach even more people and people interacting with it. This individual happened to be a nurse, so it was shared very widely within the nursing community, and it reached people, again, that may not have otherwise known of her death. So it's really encouraging people to come together to remember the deceased and help the families that you are working with day in and day out. I saw a recent Facebook obit post that was shared over 500 times, reaching over 20,000 people and leading to over 5,000 engagements. Now, granted, that is a little extreme and not quite the norm, but it really helps to kind of exemplify the value and the reach of this potential program. And then going back to what I mentioned previously, each of these obituaries we share to Facebook lead back to the obituary itself, the full obituary on the newspaper site. And we are seeing an average of about 12 sessions back to the obituary from Facebook, where your branding is very prominent within the obituary text. So it's giving you much more brand awareness, more exposure, potentially more traffic leading back to your website. It's really bringing everything back to your home and all the work you're doing to help your families in the community. Eric, turn it back over to you.
Awesome, Kim. So the first question that we have is, we're waiting to see if anyone else has other questions, is, so how do people find the obit on their Facebook page? So how do they find it?
Oh, great question. I'm glad that came up. So first of all, I'd like to say these pages themselves are SEO optimized. So they are findable via Google. And also, once people start following these pages, they're naturally going to share obituaries and encourage more followers. We are encouraging our newspaper partners to cross promote these pages through other social channels, so they get, the page itself gets exposure. The obits are available via Facebook. If you do a search, everyone has the ability to search on Facebook. So once they are posted to the page, they are actually included within the Facebook database. So if you are searching for an individual on Facebook itself, you will have the opportunity to not only find, you'll have the opportunity to find their obituary within the other search results that you may pull up. So between the pages themselves being SEO optimized and the database within Facebook, including these obituaries now, and I will tell you that obituaries is the number 3 subject or topic news content searched within Facebook today. So it's very, very popular. A lot of people are interacting on social and utilizing those channels to not only read, but share and encourage others to participate in the obituary.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Okay, so let's have you hang out just for a second to see if there's other questions, and then we can move on. So we'll just hang out for a couple seconds. See if anyone has a question. All right, Kim, thank you so much for all of this today.
Thanks.
And before we wrap up today, wanted to let you know about an exclusive opportunity we're doing today to share with you for spending some of your time this afternoon with us. So anyone on the call today can contact your newspaper and mention the code FHW2020 to receive a match up to $1,500 for placing an ad in the paper or online promoting your funeral home and its end-of-life planning services. So in the spirit of marketing on that broader continuum that we discussed today, we're going to match dollar for dollar, spending up to $1,500 for an advertisement focused on promoting those end-of-life services. And with that, we just want to say thank you for everything that you do, all the work that you do in our communities, all the work you do on behalf of helping families craft their obituaries, and know that we're here to help you with your business in any way possible, and we mean that. We would love to help you. So we'll be following with a short survey when the completion of this webinar in about 90 seconds happens. You will get a survey. We would love for you to fill that out. And with that, have an amazing afternoon. We'll talk again soon, guys. Take care.